I wasn't supposed to open the cedar shoebox on the top shelf of my mother's closet. She told me that more than once. The way you tell a kid not to touch the oven, soft voice, hard rule. But she also told me, after she was gone, to trust my gut. My gut was shaking like a loose doorknob when I climbed the step stool, slid the box down, and peeled back a strip of blue painter's tape gone dull with dust. Inside were 4 things: a Polaroid of my mother at 22 in a denim jacket, a key on a green tag stamped 3B, a brass subway token, and an envelope with my name in her looping handwriting. The date on the corner made my mouth go dry. May 3, 1994. 10 years before I was born. It wasn't mystical. It felt like standing in a locked doorway and realizing someone had been living there all along. I sat on the closet floor with the smell of cedar like pencil shavings and read the first line out loud, because my body needed to hear her voice made of ink. If you are reading this, it means I found you. I stopped there. Found me? I was adopted. My mother made it normal before I could make it complicated. She never had to stage a big reveal, she just built a life where the story fit. But 10 years before I existed? I turned the Polaroid over. On the back, in the same pen, York Street, 3B, bring lemon cookies. I should have put the tape back on, because once you pull one thread, the whole sweater remembers it can unravel. Instead, I pocketed the key, grabbed her jacket from the hall, hooked the one that still smells like ivory soap, and I drove I-95 northbound, exit 17. Lemon cookies in a brown paper bag on the passenger seat. Halfway there, a storm dragged the sky down. When the lane markers went milky and the car shuddered at 60, I said, out loud, you wrote me a letter before I existed, and now I'm following a grocery clue across state lines. This is on you. York Street was the kind of block where the mailbox labels are older than the leases. 3B sat at the top of a narrow stairwell. The key fit with a resistant honesty turn. Click, past meets present, and the door opened into a little square of light. Empty. Ghost furniture, a lamp with a crooked shade. I understood the lemon note only when I saw the tin on the window. Ledge the kind grandmothers keep buttons in, painted with a lemon grove. Inside, sugar crumbs. I set down my cookies like an offering, and saw a second envelope taped under the ledge like a secret hinge. Same handwriting. Same date. If you came, I was right about you. The letter was longer. She wrote that she'd started writing letters when the doctor stacked odds against her body. She used the words infertility and autoimmune the way you line books on a shelf. She wrote that in 3B in the spring of '94 she met a woman named Lila, who wore a sunflower dress and laughed like a catching breath, and that over lemon cookies, Lila told her about a baby she couldn't keep. The letter gave an address in Savannah, a phone number with too many sevens, and a line that made me lean my forehead to the cool glass. If you go to her, go with gentleness. She did nothing wrong by loving you the way she could. My mother always said love is a room you keep adding chairs to. I didn't know she'd built an annex I'd never walked into. When the rain lightened, I took the letter, token, key, Polaroid, tin. Back in the car, I called the number. It rang, and a woman answered on the 7th ring like a promise counted out. Lila's Bakery, she said, and the world tilted. Do you still make lemon cookies? I asked. She laughed. Baby, we never stopped. The next morning I told my boss I needed time off for a family thing and drove south with my mother's jacket, folded on the passenger seat like a map. Past the Virginia line, a Motown song she used to hum came on, and I sang harmony as best I could with a ghost. Savannah is heat pressed into air, live oaks with green beards, porches like open hands. Lila's Bakery stood on a corner with a hand-painted sign. The woman who looked up had the kind of face that holds decades, like coins in a fountain. Are you Lila? I asked. She set down a tray with a clatter that wasn't angry, just real. Depends who's asking. I said my name, both of them, the one my mother gave me and the one on my birth certificate, and the bakery went quiet. The way rooms do when they're waiting to see if something will break or bless. Lila's hands opened, then closed, then found the counter's edge like an anchor. She said my mother's name and then, she told me you might come on a rainy day. We sat at a two-top. Lila told me her version of '94. She was 20, scared, living in a world with no extra chairs. They'd shared that 3B apartment for a while. Your mother made tea like a therapist, Lila said. She made my panic stand still long enough to hear itself. The plan then was part prayer, open adoption, letters every birthday, Halloween postcards because costumes tell the truth about the selves we try on. Then time wobbled, addresses changed, men came and went, illness rerouted maps. Lila didn't disappear, she dissolved into a life where you work 6 days and rest the 7th. Because your feet quit before your hope does. She sent the first 2 letters. She said, and then one came back yellow labeled not at this address. Does that make me a coward? She asked. It makes you a baker, I said, which is another word for alchemist. She brought out a shoebox of her own. God help me, and inside were photos of me in a dinosaur costume, me missing 2 front teeth, me holding a science fair ribbon like a slice of moon. Your mother sent these for a while, Lila said. And then she stopped. The space after that sentence was bigger than the room. I folded the denim jacket over my lap and said the word nobody likes, even when it is honest cancer. Lila nodded with her whole body. She asked about my favorite teacher. She asked if I ever learned to like olives. Then she put something on the table wrapped in bakery tissue. This was her idea, she said. Inside was a small cassette recorder. On it, in looping pen, play when you're ready. Of course my mother would leave me analog in a digital world. We found an old radio with a tape deck in the back office. I pressed play. My mother's voice came alive with a hum and a click and the particular smile you can hear, even when you can't see it. She told me about the day she met Lila, about lemon cookies, about loving me before she knew my face, about choosing the room before you know who will sit in it. She told me to tell the truth when it was safe and forgive myself when it wasn't, and somewhere in the middle. She told a joke so corny I didn't realize I was crying until my cheeks cooled. At the end she said, if you came this far, you are exactly who I thought you'd be. The tape clicked off like a small door closing. Lila and I sat with what was left lemon sugar in the air, enough chairs, and a story that would rather be whole than tidy. On the drive home I took the long way. At a rest area I bought postcards with lighthouses and wrote one to myself. You were found before you were lost. Bring lemon cookies. Back home I put the shoebox on the table and left the tape recorder beside it. I made tea the way my mother did, warming the mug first so the first sip wouldn't be surprised. I called Lila's bakery and asked about wholesale because the coffee shop near my apartment is always sold out by noon. And maybe the future is just people deciding to be kind on purpose. The next morning there was sun. I took a photo of the shoebox, Polaroid, token, key, jacket, and sent it to Lila. She replied with a tray of lemon cookies with one missing. For your mother, she wrote. And for mine. I don't know if I believe in signs. I do know this 10 years before I existed. My mother wrote me into a story and waited for me to walk into it. I used to think adoption meant my life started twice. Now I think it means my life started in a room I hadn't learned how to open yet. The door was always there. So was the key. I'm writing this down so that, next time I forget, I can read the date May 3rd, 1994 and remember how a lemon smells like sunlight you can eat and how a voice on tape can be a map, and how a shoebox can be a city block if you look long enough. If you are reading this, it means I found you, too. That night I couldn't sleep, so I spread the letters on the table like maps and traced the routes my life could have taken if a different door had opened. I remembered the first day of kindergarten when my mother pinned a paper sun to my backpack because she said classrooms could be winter. I remembered the time she taught me to drive in a grocery store lot at dusk, her hand hovering near the wheel like a guardian angel with seat belts. I wondered whether any of that would feel less true. Because another woman had once held me first. It didn't. Love didn't cancel. It layered. In the morning I walked to the coffee shop and asked the owner if they ever needed a new supplier. He shrugged the way people do when they want to say yes, but their margins are a prayer. I told him about lemon cookies and a bakery 2 states down, and he said bring me a box and a story and we'll see. On the way home a stranger in the elevator complimented my jacket, and I said it was my mother's without thinking, and that answer felt exactly right. That weekend I drove back to 3B. I swept the floor, wiped the window, and left a fresh tin of cookies on the ledge. I taped a note under it for whoever needed it next. If you're here because a letter told you to come, welcome. There's a chair for you. The key works. The story isn't over.